Good morning. The first tutorial that I'm going to be recording is how to edge or do a beaded edge. And so if you haven't done the edging technique, we'll do it. So I'm going to start with a pink bead and then a white bead and then a white bead and a pink bead. And what you're doing is you put on your first 2 rows at the same time. So with edging, you work on the very tips of your leather, and your thread comes out the middle of your leather and goes through to the bad side of your leather or the back. So when you put your beads on, you take your needle and you go in the middle of the leather and you come out through the back side and you pull, and that forms the first 2 rows. When you are done, you come up through the last 2 beads on your leather, and only the last 2 beads, and you pull it so that it's straight, and then it keeps both the first row and the second row on there good and straight. Now I can continue my edging with my pink, with my white and my pink. I am going to continue my pattern, going down through the middle of the leather and out through the back, and only coming up through the 2 beads that I put on, making sure that I pull it tight. If I do not pull it tight, it will not sit on the bottom. You can do this technique with 1 bead, 2 beads, 3 beads. You can alternate between numbers to give yourself a pyramided or a staircase effect. And you can create a little pyramid by putting on an odd number of beads and only going up through a few of them. So if you want a pyramid top, you can put on 5 beads to start and go through the last 2, and then you would put on 3 beads and just keep on going through 2 of them, and it would give you a little pyramid house-like looking effect. So as you can see, edging is pretty fast and pretty simple to do. The key points of this edging is to keep the beads relatively close together when you're putting them on, and to pull your thread tight. You'll also notice that when I'm going through the leather on the top, I'm not going way down here so that you can barely see the stitching. I'm not putting my needle way to the edge. I'm also keeping it, I'm not going too close to the edge. There's a happy medium where you're just far enough from the edge that it works. If you're too close, when you pull it tight, it will rip the leather. We're using deer leather, which is very soft, and because we're using a natural leather, it's soft. It can rip if too much stress is put onto it. So we just kind of have to be careful how close to the edge that we are going. And that is our edging technique. And if you have any questions about this, please feel free to message me on our Teams app. Okay, so you've gotten to the end of your leather, and you're like sitting at my desk going, now what, Miss Paul? So you have to finish it. And when you're at the end, we don't tie a knot like we do normally. Normally, if we're at the end of our material, we would just take a little bite of the leather, pull our needle through the loop, and do that 3 times. But with our beadwork, we don't want to take the chance that the loop will come through, or the knot will come undone and all of our beadwork will come undone. Plus, we want to strengthen our beadwork. So what I'm going to do, I'm at the edge here. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through the next bead beside my last bead. And I'm going to go through just that top. And I'm going to pull it nice and tight. And then I'm going to go to the bead beside it. And I'm just going up through the beads. I'm actually not going through the leather. And I'm just pulling it tight as I go, and I'm going through all the beads through my various stitches, pulling them tight, strengthening my work as I go until my thread is really too short to work with, or I've gone through at least 6 or 7. This is really the best way because you're strengthening your work as you go. You're not leaving any knots. This is also what you would do if you have to change your thread. If your thread's too short, as you can see, my thread is pretty short. So if you have to change your thread, you would do the same thing. You would go through several. You would start your new thread a few beads over from where you need to change your thread, and you would go through several beads with the new thread. And so you just do that until your thread's too short to work with, and then clip that off, and you are ready to go. All right.